For more on the story, I'm joined by the National Sea Rescue's Craig Lambinon. Craig, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Of course, in your, career, throughout your career, Craig, you've witnessed many a storm. Talk to us about this one and sort of the warnings that are currently activated.
Yeah, so it has been a very difficult time, and obviously our thoughts are with everyone who's displaced by this. To our knowledge, there hasn't been any loss of life. NSRI today assisted the emergency services. We can highly compliment traffic services, fire and rescue services, disaster risk management, government health emergency medical services, police, water policing and dive service, law enforcement, municipalities, city councils, and the neighborhood watches and community groups that have really all come together swiftly to help people in this difficult time. Look, mostly NSRI attended today in Hermanus and in Stanford, where people had to be evacuated. There is obviously the commitment appealing to the public to follow the South African Weather Service's weather warnings. They've been absolutely brilliant, giving accurate and speedy warnings throughout this weather system. And then obviously also disaster risk management for their mobilization of the joint emergency service that all came together to help people. Understandably, NSRI, at least 50 people were evacuated from the low-lying areas around the Klein River in Stanford, including a parrot, people's domestic animals, even their farm animals had to be evacuated from areas. But we've got the resources. Our volunteers are in wetsuits with communications, and our jet tribs have really come through, being able to navigate areas that are with a lot of debris in the water, like tree stumps, electrical wiring, and so on. But it has been difficult. It's Mother Nature really showing her true force, and it's while we haven't seen this in a long time, it is at the end of the day a weather system coming through and affecting these areas that are understandably in areas where we believe farm dams that have broken their banks is also another issue that's being dealt with. But we can also complement the joint emergency services for very quickly and effectively dealing with all of this in a systematic way and providing shelter to those who have been displaced.
Craig, when you look at the rescue operations that you've had to run sort of over the last 24 hours, would you say that they've been unique when you look at the pattern of what has happened in those incidents?
Yeah, look, I mean, let's face it, this was a storm of note. And but then again, if you look at the warnings that the South African Weather Service's forecast, it was accurate. It was regularly updated. A level warnings changed. There's a level 9 warning for rainfall, which is incredible. I don't think we've ever seen that I don't think we've seen that since the South African Weather Services came through with the accurate way that they're predicting changes in weather. I think it might be the first time that they've ever had to put a level 9 warning out. So, look, everyone's prepared and ready to respond, and various alternatives are made when we can't reach areas. And, it's different. Everything's dealt with in a very specific manner, depending on the type of rescue operations we're faced with. If you look at those last storms that really hit the West Coast more than it did the Southern Cape, or the Western Cape, Cape Town, the city of Cape Town, that was dealt with really by units in that area that were geared and ready to respond to these kinds of things. So, I mean, you've got to also look at the municipalities and city councils that have really come through in a very timeous way to help people. And dealing with the aftermath now is going to be obviously challenging, but I think that they've got it in hand.
Craig, you're bringing me to my next point. Water, of course, can be quite a challenging area when it comes to rescue operations, and really the expertise of individuals like yourself come in very handy. Where do you find that often there are gaps that exist between sort of what the emergency services personnel within municipalities are doing versus, what it is that they would need to actually carry out a successful rescue missions when floods of this nature have hit? And, my understanding is that some of that rainfall was coming down so quickly that even the attempt by some residents to evacuate, that those attempts were hampered.
Look, without a doubt, the emergency services are geared for everything. And that includes calling in the likes of NSRI or NPOs who have additional assistance that they can provide. But no, they've done a splendid job. And obviously it is difficult at certain times. I mean, we saw a rainfall last night. I don't think we've seen it like that in a very long time. There will be certain situations where there's services are being hampered in reaching people, but the appeal is for people to stay where they are if they're safe, to raise the alert to this is now a life-threatening emergency, and that will change the response. And it can be difficult for everybody, and we appreciate that, and our thoughts are with everyone who's been displaced or affected by this. Businesses that have been affected, residential homes, farms that have been affected. But to our understanding, there's still no loss of life. People that have been relocated, provisions have been made for medications that they might need. So everybody is really playing this at the top of their game, and we can be very proud of that.
What are you planning for and anticipating, Craig, going into the rest of the evening and, of course, tomorrow?
So from our side, we are on alert to respond to any emergencies, to assist the municipalities and the city councils that have emergencies in any way, to assist the emergency services. The water policing and dive services are, as usual, especially for this area and into the Eastern Cape, are ready to respond together with the likes of disaster risk management, ambulance services, fire and rescue, law enforcement, police, even your suburban police. I think the difficulty is that what one must remember in these cases is that your normal day-to-day emergencies are still being attended to, despite the fact that there's a massive mobilization to one particular area. Ambulances are still going to people's houses in the middle of that rainfall to go and help people in need, get them to hospitals. Police are still attending to neighborhood complaints or business complaints. Despite the weather, the operations are still running as routinely as they would if the weather wasn't playing its part like it is at the moment.
Based on what you've seen, Craig, what's your advice to residents in the Western and Eastern Cape tonight?
As we obviously appeal to people to stay put where weather is affecting them, as long as they're safe. Move to higher ground if you're not. Don't try to cross over rivers that are flooded. Don't try to cross over bridges or waterlogged roads. Don't launch any craft to go to sea unless you absolutely have to. And if you are at sea, make sure you've got your life jacket on and that your emergency equipment is securely available for you to reach for. But stay safe. Don't unnecessarily put yourself in harm's way during this kind of weather.
All right, Craig Lambinon, we'll leave it there for tonight. Here's with the National Sea Rescue Institute.